What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am here to review one of the, once again, most anticipated albums of 2021. This album came out just last week, and I didn't get the chance to review it until now. I am finally here to review the latest offering from one of my favorite bands of all time, Mastodon, Hushed, and Grim. So, brief little rundown of the history of Mastodon for those 5 people who may not know. Mastodon formed in 2000 out of Atlanta, Georgia, with drummer Bron Daylor, bassist Troy Sanders, and guitar players Bill Kelleher and Brent Hines. And of course, vocal duties would be shared over the next couple albums between Troy and Brent, both with their own different styles. Troy at the time going in the more gruff vocal direction, while Brent would be the one providing little more of the vocal melodies throughout, and Bill Kelleher doing some background stuff. And they've been on a roll really ever since the beginning of their career. 2002, their debut Remission was very, very unique for them, kind of providing a bit of sludge metal into their progressive metal style. Then you get their big breakthrough Leviathan in 2004, where they really broke through in the metal world. And then really ever since Leviathan, they just keep growing and growing as players, as songwriters. And here we are after several albums like Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky, The Hunter. Well, really after Crack the Sky, the band started to shift a little bit into a little bit of mainstream metal by incorporating a little bit more upbeat stuff, like on The Hunter and especially on Once More Around the Sun. But then on their most recent effort, Emperor of Sand, they kind of went back a little bit to their proggy roots while still incorporating a little bit of that more mainstream style from the 2 albums previous. Well, here it's been 4 years since that album came out, and we've been wondering, when are we going to get a new Mastodon album? Well, here we are with Hushed and Grim. Now, this is a 2-disc double album, almost 90 minutes worth of material. Now, bit of the backstory behind this album. The band's old manager, if I can quickly pull his name up real quick, Nick John, the band's previous manager, unfortunately passed away after a battle with cancer in 2018. And it really broke the band's heart. So this album has served as a tribute to their old manager, who, from what I heard, was a really, really nice guy and really helped the band quite a bit. So with disc 1, we start with Pain with an Anchor, and we get an awesome drum intro to begin this track, followed by some really trippy guitars as Bron Daylor's vocals come in. The speed picks up a little bit once Troy's voice comes in, and the vocal dynamics between Troy and Bron are quite something to hear, especially nowadays in Mastodon. The drums, I mean, Bron Daylor is one of the best drummers I have ever heard in the history of music. And his performance, really on this whole album, really comes through. A really sweet solo coming in from Brent Hines, and then afterwards we get some heavy, chunky riffs with some epic ambience in the background to bring this song to a close, which leads into The Crux. We get some almost thrashy riffing and drum work to begin this track, followed by some great guitar melodies going on in the background, some 3/4 time signature stuff in the middle of the track while the drums are just flying everywhere. And then we get a more sad and depressive and somber solo to add some darkness and depression to the track, kind of similar to something Soen or Dream Theater would have done. And Troy's voice, I think this was maybe Troy's best vocal performance on this album for me personally. Sickle and Peace, starting off with some children vocals at the beginning, which was kind of weird, before we get some psychedelic riffing with some different time signatures going on. But we get some awesome riffs and transitions coming in as the track starts getting a little more intense, and the track goes back and forth between the psychedelic riffing and the thick chugs that we're getting. Another tasteful solo as the song builds up afterwards, with Troy's voice and then Bron's voice coming in at the end. Now, The next song, More Than I Can Chew, starting off with some suspenseful keyboards before another heavy chunk of a riff comes in to carry some groove. And this song really knew how to keep that groove and heaviness going. I almost got echoes of Gojira on this one with this track. And then once again, Braun and Troy trading off their vocal styles to keep the song fresh, and as the vocals harmonize together, we get an epic build up to the more emotional side to Braun's vocals, and eventually another somber solo to bring this song to a close as Brent makes that guitar cry at the end of this track. Now, The Beast, the following track, starting off with some really sweet, clean guitars that almost felt country music-like, before we get a heavy psychedelic riff and Brent finally getting to hear his voice. Now, just as a spoiler alert for the album, there are only 2 songs on this album that Brent Hinds provides vocals for. This and the song Peace and Tranquility. And I'll be honest with you, that was kind of one of the things about with recent Mastodon that kind of turned me off a little bit, because no disrespect to Braun and Troy, fantastic vocalists, even though I get Brent isn't the best vocalist live, I like hearing him on the studio stuff because he reminds me sometimes of like Ozzy Osbourne. But here, I hear Brent's voice and it just felt like a breath of fresh air to me. And then Troy coming in afterwards, the songs building up the tension through the drums and the vocals from Braun. Speed picking up a little bit as Troy's voice gets a little bit high on this song, and up to this point, maybe Braun's best vocal performance on the album so far. Another wonderful solo to add some feeling. Back to the psychedelic riff we go. So by far, The Beast was the most psychedelic song up to this point of this entire album. Skeleton of Splendor, however, we definitely shift moods quite a bit. We go from the psychedelic nature of The Beast to a bit more darkness, as this song starts off with more somber acoustic guitars, with Troy coming in with his voice, and the electric guitars providing a wonderful embellishment in the background, while Troy's voice got a bit gritty on this song. Braun is heard in the background to kind of provide a bit of an agonizing atmosphere in terms of just the pain you feel in this song. And this song kind of reminds me of something like Catatonia would have written. But it also reminded me a little bit of the track The Sparrow off of The Hunter. We get a spacey keyboard solo before another beautiful somber guitar solo coming in. Up to this point, the most somber song of the album. And then after that, we get Tear Drinker, where it begins with some tension with the instruments and Braun's voice coming in. And as the song gets more tense, Troy just comes in out of nowhere with his vocals, and I love the accenting with the hi-hat that Braun is doing on the drums going on in this track. Guitar melodies providing more of the tension within. Another keyboard solo that definitely sounds similar to something Dream Theater would have done. An awesome riff coming in before the solo comes through, and the solo was a nice combination of technical execution and feeling to it. And then we conclude disc 1 with Pushing the Tides with some heavy riffing to begin. Drums are just flying all over as the speed's picking up. Troy's voice gets a little bit dirty, kind of reminds you of his style during the early days of Mastodon, before Braun's voice providing a bit more melody, as this song again kind of has a bit of that Gojira vibe, but yet the somber melodies going on kind of remind me of something At the Gates would do. But now we get into the second half of the album. Disc 2, we kick it off with Peace and Tranquility, the other track Brent Hinds provides vocals, but I really couldn't tell his voice on this one, because Troy's kind of going a little bit into that range of Brent's voice, just a little bit on this track. But fast-paced riffing and drums that felt a little more upbeat, yet it was very trippy at the same time. The speed was picking up in the beginning, but then it slows down when Braun's voice comes in. The mood of this track goes back and forth between feeling upbeat and feeling trippy, we get another great guitar solo that's cutting through the mix. And up to this point, the most upbeat track of the album. Excuse me. And then we get the dagger. Some build-up riffs that definitely remind me of the Crack the Sky era of Mastodon, and I absolutely love this song for that reason. Troy's voice, once again, getting very, very gritty during the build-up to this song. As the song progresses, it felt like an epic sci-fi metal song with the keyboards and the guitars. Blech. Keyboards and the guitars trading off of one another during this track, and the drums almost seemed a bit tribal on this song. Then again, this was a song that had extra percussion done by Dave Whitty from Discordance Axis and Municipal Waste. So he definitely knows how to add some atmosphere with the percussion on this song. And then, wow. If you thought Skeletons of Splendor was dark and depressing, here we get probably the saddest song Mastodon has ever written. Had It All, which definitely feels like a tribute to their manager, as it starts off with these sad acoustic guitars, and even Troy's voice feels like it's in pain and anguish. And this song feels like something, again, like Catatonia or even Opeth would have probably written. And the lyrics of this song, this is one of the best lyric songs of the album, as this song definitely spoke to me as somebody who's gone through pain and loss and stuff. This song definitely spoke to me, and for a balladish track, man, Mastodon knew how to drive emotion out of you with this song, bar none. And to get the electric guitars coming in to provide more of that dark, depressive melody. And then we get a fantastic solo courtesy of Kim Thale from Soundgarden to just even make it sound even more depressing. And just, wow. This was definitely one of the best tracks of the album. One of the best songs I think the band has written in their entire career. Like, holy shit. And then after that, with Savage Lands, it gets heavy again and fast-paced and very thrashy at times. Probably the most thrashy track of the album, which is definitely a nice contrast to what we just heard with Had It All. It goes from dark, murky depression, sadness, to something way more aggressive. And then towards the end, the mood of the track kind of shifted to more of a melodic build-up with the clean guitars, while the drums are driving the tension before the solo comes in to conclude this song. And then we get the longest song of the album at 8.5 minutes, Gobblers of Dregs. Starting off with some weird sound effects to start it off before we get a heavy yet melodic riff that feels very doomy. By far, this song was the most doom-laden track, as it has heaviness yet dark melody to it. And definitely this song reminded me so much of something Black Sabbath would have written. Only thing missing was Brent's vocals, and it would have been appropriate if they had Brent do vocals on this track. The keyboards in the background definitely providing more of that melodic embellishment. Then the song picks up in the middle as some tension is being built before it gets intense, and then it settles into a nice groove that kind of reminds me of the song The Czar off of Crack the Sky. And the intensity coming back before another wonderful, tasty solo on the guitars. And then it goes back to being doomy to conclude this track. And I love how this song shifted. Like in the first half, it's Sabbathy, doomy, murky. Second half, it's more of the trademark Mastodon progressive metal stylings. And probably the best song of the album, in my opinion. Eyes of Serpents, the penultimate track, got some interesting keyboards to begin before the guitars start to settle down, or settle into the song. And the song's driving tension through the melodies it's providing. And the solo on this song has a mixture of like the squealy dive bombs, as well as feel and technical execution. Thick riff to come in afterwards before we get some wonderful harmonized riffs and solos by Bill and Brent before another final solo coming in. And then we get to the finale of the album, Gigantium. Cool drum start before it gets doomy again. Another Black Sabbath inspired kind of song. Although I also got echoes of Swallow the Sun a little bit on this track. And already, not even halfway through the song, we get a guitar solo that was wonderful. Great drum fill to kick off the second half of the song as it started to feel a little more upbeat to kind of conclude the song with another beautiful guitar solo with that upbeat feeling. Almost like a perfect metaphor to describe the second half of the song. It's almost like after the struggles you're going through in life, you can come home to your family and be happy and be at peace. And it concludes with some tasteful symphonic elements to provide closure to the song and to the album. So overall, for 90 minutes, holy shit. If you ask me which of the big double albums was better this year, Maiden or Mastodon, hands down I'm going to say Mastodon. Not to say Maiden's was bad, Maiden's was great, but I think Mastodon really did the double album idea this year better. Like, the songs just go everywhere from thick, chunky riffs to wonderful melodic riffs to just some darkness and depression, and yet at times it feels psychedelic and trippy. Like, Mastodon really were pushing themselves creatively with this album, and given the circumstance with their manager Nick John passing away from cancer, it definitely shows on this album that they were going for more of a darker vibe on this album. And I'll go out and say that this is the best thing Mastodon has done since Crack the Sky. Not the best album they've ever done, though you could argue it'd be among the top 4, for sure, along with classics like Leviathan and Blood Mountain and Crack the Sky. This album, oh my god, what a roller coaster of emotions. You go from feeling like you're at peace in a trippy state of mind to feeling angry and you just want to fucking destroy shit, to then feeling sad for people you've lost in life and how you wish life wouldn't suck, and then even at times you feel like you're at peace with yourself through happiness. So this album's an emotional roller coaster ride, and creatively is definitely Mastodon firing on all cylinders. This is the third time this year I'm gonna give an album a perfect score, 10 out of 10. This might end up being my album of the year, possibly. I don't know, I'd have to go back to this some more, and then listen to like Evil and Soen, and even by this point, Hooded Menace has now become a 10 out of 10. So I gotta listen to a bunch of stuff again, and then really to figure out who's going to come out on top, because good lord, this album, I could argue, is album of the year, possibly. It's that fucking fantastic. But what did you guys think of Hushed and Grim by Mastodon? Let me know in the comments section below, and wow, I can't believe I nearly got 20 minutes out of this review. But there was a lot of songs to talk about on this, and a lot of elements that were going on throughout this whole album. But again, let me know in the comments below, what did you guys think of this album? And until next time, horns high, and I will see you soon.
What the heck is fellatio?
Cole, out of all the people in here, you should know what that is.
Every time I'm soft, I to try to have a shot.
Is it a new way to torture
people?
people?
A little too friendly.
No.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Okay, I'm looking it up.
Every time
Oh boy. Are you looking at the whole thing or just the
Every time I'm
fellatio part?
watching-
So wait, so fellatio is stimulation of the penis? Really?
Thanks for letting me know that. I might pick that card now.
Cole. It's another name for a blowjob.
Okay. Every time I
I thought it was a dick
It's a
punishment.
deep throat blowjob.
All right, here we go. Okay.
Moving on.
Sounds like Carson's getting one right now.
God damn.